Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Monday, June the 23rd. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to open lower by around 0.25% as the world braces for Iran's response after the US attacked key Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. Global equity markets were mixed on Friday ahead of the US attack on Iran. Investors remain cautious amid the geopolitical instability. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq ended lower. While for the week, the Dow was little changed, the S&P was down around 0.1% and the Nasdaq was up marginally. Friday's volume was higher than the recent average, with the session marking a triple witching event, which is the simultaneous expiration of stock options, stock index futures and stock index option contracts that take place every quarter. Among the Mag 7 stocks, Nvidia is in talks with Foxconn to deploy humanoid robots at its new Houston factory. Alphabet shares fell as Turkish regulators launched a probe to determine if the AI-powered ad campaign product violates competition laws in the country. Kroger shares jumped after the grocery chain increased its annual sales growth forecast, and shares of Accenture fell after the IT services provider said new bookings decreased in the third quarter. And US equity funds logged their largest weekly outflow in 3 months in the week, as intensifying Israel-Iran tensions and persistent concerns over the economic impact of elevated US tariffs drove investors to reduce risk exposure. According to LSEG data, investors exited US equity funds of around $18.5 billion during the week. Well, the US attack on Iranian nuclear sites is expected to push oil prices higher and prompt a flight to safety as markets assess how the rapidly escalating war in Iran would affect the global economy. The reaction in Middle East stock markets, which traded on Sunday, suggested investors were assuming a benign outcome, even as Iran said it reserves all options to defend itself and warned of everlasting consequences. Well, the UN Security Council met on Sunday to discuss the US strikes on Iran's nuclear sites as Russia, China and Pakistan proposed a 15-member body adopt a resolution calling for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in the Middle East. Meanwhile, in the US, FOMC member Christopher Wallace said the Fed could cut next month on expectations that the inflation effect from tariffs would be short-lived, saying we could do this as early as July. I think we've got room to bring it down and then we can kind of see what happens with inflation. We've been on pause for 6 months to wait and see, and so far the data has been fine. Well, the US 2-year Treasury yield fell to 3.91%, while the 10-year was down to 4.4%. Markets pricing a 10% chance the Fed funds rate will be cut by 25 basis points at the next meeting. Well, the US dollar index closed up around 0.1%. The Aussie is down to 64.4 US cents. And risk-off sentiment has seen Bitcoin take a tumble, falling to 100,000 US dollars. Iran's parliament has approved a move to close the Strait of Hormuz. Nearly a quarter of global shipments of oil pass through the strait that Iran shares with Oman and the United Arab Emirates. Ahead of the US military action, Brent crude futures fell around 2.5% to $77 on Friday. Copper was down 0.4%, iron ore rose 1% to $93 a tonne, and gold is up around 0.5% to $3,382 an ounce. Ahead locally this week, global PMIs for services and manufacturing are released today. Wednesday sees the monthly read on inflation, and national accounts are revealed on Thursday, along with job vacancies for May. Overseas, Fed Chair Jerome Powell gives testimony on Tuesday. US home prices for April are released. Thursday sees durable goods orders for May, along with US GDP growth for the March quarter. And on Friday, the US PCE price index is released. That is your day ahead. We'll see you again tomorrow.